Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full-on, your Fulham-centric football podcast. I'm your host, Ash Woolford. Joining me this week are my regular co-host, AJ. How you doing, buddy?
Very good, very good. And yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, considering. Drew, and how about you, buddy?
Yeah, I'm doing well. They still haven't kicked me out of this house, so you know what I mean. It's a full-blown city now, Ash.
I think you must have squatters' rights by now, so we can claim it through that. Obviously, we're here to talk about the Wolves game on Saturday.
Boo!
A bit of a difficult one for us to talk about. I wasn't actually at the game on Saturday. I couldn't go because a couple of personal things came up, and ended up putting myself through watching the full game today on a Sunday before we recorded, knowing the result. And I don't know if that makes that a worse for me or for anybody else who was at the game because I knew what was coming. I knew it was bad, but on watching it back, it was terrible. AJ, we'll start with the question we always start with. Looking at the starting lineup, there was the one change. Sasha Lukic came in for Sander Berg because Berg had pulled out feeling unwell. Sort of strong-armed us in making that decision on whether or not he was going to come straight back anyway. How did you feel about the starting lineup? Were you surprised by it? Was it as expected?
Probably a little bit too soon for Lukic coming back off of injury to throw him into it. Although on paper, you'd argue this would have been the perfect game to sort of integrate him back into it. However, nothing about this game happened as it should have done on paper, or at least according to how we would have imagined it. So,
Yeah, I think we look at the stats in this game, and I think they are a bit misleading into what we saw during the game. Drew, you were at the game on Saturday. The stats say we had the majority of possessions. We had loads of shots. We had loads of, you know, we basically even with them we had 7 corners, but we didn't really produce much. Before we go into sort of describing individual moments in the game, is it that same problem that we've had for so far this season that we keep brushing off because we're getting results where, we get to the edge of the box and then we just run out of ideas? Is it, we're just not creative enough in that final third? Like, what is the frustration with us and not being able to put away chances, as well as also looking so easy to cut open at the back? It's getting really frustrating to watch.
I think the international break's got to factor into it. We don't seem to restart the season well after the international break. I don't know what it is. It's your question to AJ about the starting lineup. We can pretty much all predict it now, and I am wondering if people are becoming complacent, if people are becoming tired. In terms of the actual Wolves game, I do wonder if there was a sense of complacency because we were on a three game winning streak. But we were flat. We were flat. Forget about the final third, Ash. Yeah, everywhere on the field, we were second best. Wolves thoroughly deserved to win the game. Simple as that. And with the greatest, I mean, we talk about the eye test. We've often discussed it when certain players that we will not mention in our team keep scoring great with KPIs, as AJ reminds us. When we're actually there and we're looking at it, we just can't see it. Yeah. And yesterday, the whole performance was flat. I don't think you can look at it and say we broke down in the final third. We didn't have any ideas, because that's not the case. We were second best all over the pitch. And Wolves, full credit to Gary O'Neill. Yeah, they thoroughly deserved it. I don't think it was a 4-1, and obviously they scored 2 goals when we went down to 10 men. But they took the lead when we had 11 men on the pitch. And I mean, there was a collective groan when it was 7 minutes of extra time announced, because if there was going to be more goals, it wasn't going to be scored by Fulham. I can tell you that for free. So the short answer is, in this particular case, or this particular game, Ash, my personal view, I don't think the problems with the final third. I think they're in the first third, the second third, and the final third. I think it was, I think it was cumulative, and I think it would be very misrepresentative to sort of highlight the deficiencies in our attack and the lack of invention and lack of creativity, because it all over the pitch we just weren't at it. We just weren't at it. And I do feel that if Silva could have changed 10 players, he probably would have done.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. You can sense the frustration from him sidelines during the game. That it's one of those games where everything that can go wrong has gone wrong. If that's the way people are playing on the pitch, the way the ball's falling, the quality of the possession. Like, we went into this game looking at Wolves going, they're second bottom. They haven't started great, but they're gonna have a lot of momentum after having that really big confidence boosting win before the international break. And they do what we never do. We always have this problem where we can never take our form that goes into the international break, never comes out of it. So if we go in poorly, we'll come out doing really well. And if we go in doing really well, we'll always come out really poorly. And I don't know if that's because if we lose before we go into the international break, Marco works the boys harder during the international break, or, because we've gone in winning games, we've looked really bright in those 2 games. We'll take it easy for a week and then come back in and everyone's just a bit lackluster. We can probably forgive some of the players for having maybe lackluster games because they've done a lot of travelling and played late games into last week. You look at Robertson for that. You look at Raul for that. They played late and had a lot of travel. You look at even Andreas Pereira did a lot of travelling to not play a single minute for Brazil last week. But it is frustrating, some of the performances that we see. You look into that game, and as we started the game, it was very, attack. It was very good. It was good. If you're not a Fulham fan or a Wolves fan, you would have been really enjoyed that first 10 minutes of football. The problem is that if you are a Fulham fan, you're then looking at, okay, we've got to try score those goals. The miss from Raul, where he managed to hit the bar from 5 yards with nothing in front of him because the keeper was on the other side of the goal, it sums up that whole game for me yesterday, because it was that one bit of bright work where we managed to actually get the ball in the box and do something with it, and an easy chance and the striker misses it, and then obviously a couple of minutes later we do manage to score from Iwobi. A lovely finish by Iwobi, by the way, and he has proven that he can score those goals, but our attack play is just frustrating in the sense of, it looks to me like we have that same problem we had it under Scott Parker, and then no way am I putting Scott Parker and Marco Silva in the same box, by the way, just to make that exceptionally clear. But we look like we're almost clueless as soon as we get to the edge of the box. Like, we don't know what to do. We either want to try score, a Puskas goal, everyone's got to touch it, everyone's got to score, or we just don't look like we know how to get the ball to the striker or any attacking player in the box. AJ, we could probably say the same thing up until Wolves equalised. What is our problem? Why do we look like every time we get to the edge of the box, we just completely, like, for use of a better term, shit the bed? Like, we don't have a clue as soon as we get to the edge of the box.
I genuinely, and bear in mind that I obviously didn't see the full game, but I genuinely didn't see as much of that yesterday, purely because I didn't see as much of our build-up as I normally would do yesterday. As Drew alluded to, we were completely flat and outrun on pretty much every part of the pitch. Even our best sort of hard-working players seemed like they were second best in every department. So yesterday, I'd argue that we just didn't have any build-up. But in general, to your question, why do we struggle so much? Because we don't have a dominant presence inside the box. We don't. Raul is good for what he is good for, but he isn't a Mitrovic who is dragging centre-backs all over the place, is dominant in the air, is dominant with the ball to feet. He isn't a target man that you can ping the ball to, who will hold up the ball and wait for 4 players to overlap him in the box or something like that. So we're missing that presence in the box, and none of our midfielders, aside from Wilson recently, are committing to filling that hole around Raul. So essentially, you have 2 centre-backs marking Raul, who doesn't want to be a nuisance to them, which makes life easy for them. That's just what it is. Very, very rarely, and as you alluded to yourself, Ash, one of the few opportunities yesterday where we did get behind the defence, Raul missed a sitter. we're not penetrating enough, and we either need to penetrate in one of two ways. We either need to be direct and attack the defenders, in which we thought Nelson was particularly good at, and yesterday he just didn't show up. Traore also particularly good at. Iwobi not so much. He tends to cut back inside, which leaves the defenders in front of him. Not that that's a bad thing. It's good to have that option, but it'd be nice to see him go at defenders a bit more regularly. Outside of going at the defenders more regularly, we can commit bodies into the box and deliver the ball into the box more. Neither of those things we do regularly on our attack. So it results in very fine build-up play, trying to thread a needle pass into the last man, trying to 1-2 our way around 16 players. Obviously, there's not 16 players, but you know what I mean. I'm exaggerating to make a point. But yeah, it's too much sometimes, is probably my answer to your question.
I completely understand what you're saying. Drew, for you, before we sort of talk about the defensive frailties and how easily Wolves cut us open yesterday through some great work on their behalf, I will add, but you know, would you say that would therefore mean that if we were going to buy a player to solve that problem in January, is it a new striker we need, or is it an attacking player that can play between the lines a lot better than we seem to have at the moment? Because ESR isn't that player, or you know, like yesterday, Wolves planned to mark him out of the game, and they did it exceptionally well. Or you know, or do we need to just find a player that can play between the lines a lot better, can be that striker when we need it, but can also be that attacking midfielder? Because ESR doesn't seem to be doing that as much. He's got great link-up play on the wing, but the edge of the box to the striking isn't necessarily been his forte so far. What would you say you would think would priority?
I think ESR yesterday, every time he tried to come forward, he was tracked by Andre very successfully. Going back to Ash's point about Raul, I mean, Raul now, what is he, 32, 33? I disagree. I mean, I accept that he's not Mitrovic, but his first touch and he can hold up the ball is great. The problem is, yesterday, Wolves played quite deep, and AJ's quite right. You're trying to play through basically 10 defenders at all times. And one of the things that we miss, and I think this goes back to a couple of seasons ago in the Carvalho role, is a player that will go beyond the central midfield and the striker. It's when Cesc broke through. We all remember when Cesc broke through. One of the big reasons that he was so effective is because he was prepared to come off the wing and anticipate and get close to the forward. We don't really have anyone who's prepared to close that gap a la Cesc or a la Carvalho when they played that sort of role. ESR, although he scored some goals, that's not really his game. And yesterday, we just genuinely looked clueless. I mean, I think we desperately need another striker. We desperately need another striker. I think someone big, powerful, and you've heard people, regular listeners will have heard me extol the virtues of Liam Delap. I mean, I think someone big, powerful, and direct like him would be great. I do think we need a different striker. It's difficult. Because ESR is going to be a fixture now, and I don't think there's anyone on this pod or in the ground. I mean, there's a few people that think he's a luxury player, and shouldn't be in the team. But every club's got its idiots. You know what I'm saying? I still maintain there's a problem with the balance of the midfield. We don't break enough. And the only break enough beyond the striker. And the only time we've done it recently to great effect is Wilson, who, like Cesc, will drift in and put himself in the box. So I do think we need another striker. I think that's completely a reasonable shout. I'm just not sure that the balance of the midfield is right. And I think we miss that Carvalho type player who's prepared instinctively. His natural game is to run beyond the attacking midfielder spot and beyond the number 9.
Mm.
But with the greatest respect, I think even if we'd had someone like that yesterday, if they'd have been playing the way the rest of the team had done, we could have been there until midnight, and we still wouldn't have scored.
Yeah.
We'd probably end up losing about 8-1. So, you know, I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, I the points AJ makes over elaboration, I think they're well founded. We do. It's still, and we discussed this, Ash, after the Palace game. Kearney is still our best pure passer.
Mm-hmm.
Still our best pure passer. But even when he came on yesterday, it wasn't effective. But yeah, I mean, I can see. What's annoying is we're so close to being a really good team.
Mm.
We are so close to being a really good team. But you know, that's why Silva gets the big money, because he'll work it out. But yeah, I mean,
Hopefully.
yeah, hopefully he does. But we are starting to find ourselves, when teams come to defend, and they just what is commonly known as a low block, or when I was growing up, it was just playing deep, dropping deep. We struggle to the point, using your phrase, Ash, we look clueless at times.
Mm-hmm.
We genuinely look clueless, and it does my nutting, quite frankly.
Mm. Yeah, I think yesterday, you know, you talk about the balance in midfield being all wrong. You know, I know that Sasha Lukic came back yesterday. I don't personally think he was going to play yesterday until Sander Berg pulled out ill. From listening to Marco speak before the game, it didn't sound like that was the case. And I think maybe the game had just come a bit too soon for him, because he didn't really look like he didn't look like the player that had gone out before he was injured. He looked like he was really devoid of confidence. And, you know, Wolves did a great job yesterday. And this is the one thing I don't want to, it's not like when we lost to Villa and we were all angry and frustrated about how bad we were. I'm less angry and frustrated today watching that game, because Wolves were outstanding. I think, you know, Mario Lemina, who we all praised before the game, was outstanding. Andre did a job on ESR that ESR couldn't deal with. Mateus Cunha was outstanding, genuinely the best player that I've seen Fulham play against this season. He was outstanding yesterday. You know, we see that link-up play with their first goal, with their equaliser. You know, it's a lovely ball over by Lemina. Great brick takedown and great finish by Cunha, who was just the best player on the pitch yesterday. There's no doubt about it. You know, the second goal was a bit more frustrating because, you know, we look into the second half and, you know, the defending's poor. The defending is weak from us. And we sort of just let teams do it. And it's happened 3 or 4 times this season where we conceded goals, like the second goal we conceded yesterday, where, you know, players are just basically watching their man bring the ball down the edge of the box and walk into the box. And we need to be a bit more resolute with that. You know, and then if we, you know, we can look at the last 2 goals. Cunha's second goal, amazing take, by the way. It was a lovely finish. But, you know, would it have happened if we didn't had lost Anderson through injury? Had it had happened, you know, would they scored the 4th if we didn't only have one centre back on the pitch at that time? Who knows? You know, it's one of those things. I think 4-1 flat as Wolves in terms of the scoreline, but the result 100% isn't flattering on Wolves. They 100% deserve to win. We were not good enough. What I want to talk about, though, as a talking point for the second half yesterday, is a lot of Fulham fans, including us, have been quite critical of Marco Silva, and he's want to not make substitutions in the second half. Yesterday, he rolled the dice and he made those subs, and it sort of bits in the backside a bit with Anderson then going off injured. Drew, I know you want to speak, so I'll come to you.
Yeah, sorry,
You know,
AJ,
no, it's
but
fine.
having been in the ground, right?
You're fine.
I got into a bit of a spat with someone yesterday who blamed the whole game on Silva.
No, 100%, I wouldn't.
No, I mean, I
You
just, you
can't.
know, I mean, what's the diplomatic way of saying well, that's just bollocks? Okay.
Very
I mean,
diplomatic.
Silva may have. I'm not so sure that it's wise to keep the same team all the time, especially after they've done so much travel. Ash, you've already covered that with the international break. We look flat, we look stale, we look tired. But I mean, I sit basically on the halfway line in the Johnny Haynes stand, and I sit directly opposite Silva. And he was going absolutely spare. He was going absolutely spare. And it's one of those games where I strongly suspect he knew we weren't at it. And if he'd wanted to If he could, he would have changed more than the 5 substitutes he had. And I think the fact that he changed so quickly, I think he realised the game was slipping away. So he tried to be proactive. He didn't anticipate the Anderson injury. I mean, people around me said, oh, he should have kept one back and blah, 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 blah. But I could see what he was trying to do, because at that time we were only 2-1 down. So we were still, in theory, within striking distance. The problem was, it was just a combination of things. Wolves played, they played deep, hit us on the break. They had 4 shots, scored 4 goals. They did a job on ESR. We were completely flat. I can see the argument in saying Silva should have kept 1 substitute back, but Silva was trying to rescue the game. And when Silva did what he did, as I said, we were in striking distance at that point. So I am not going to criticise Silva for the use of subs. I will question whether he was completely in tune with the conditioning of his team after the international break, bearing in mind how some of those journeys, you're talking the other side of the globe, that's a lot of traveling. You've covered the point about Lukic. I'm not going to criticize Lukic. We lost Berge. That was unfortunate. And I'm not going to dispute the fact that it may have come too soon for him. I'm a Lukic fan. I think he's great. But as for the substitutions, I totally understand why Silva did it. It may have been indicative of the fact he got a little bit desperate, and he doesn't usually. But I can totally see what he was trying to do. But I keep saying it, and for those that are listening, I apologise for repeating myself. You could have literally replaced 10 players yesterday. You could have replaced 10 players. It was flat. It was just, they were listless, is what they were.
Yeah, I think you've actually answered my next question. My next question was going to be, was it the subs that were wrong, or was it the starting lineup that was wrong in terms of being aware of, the condition of the players? But you've just answered it with that.
Strong am I with
as
the
it
force,
was,
Ash.
Yeah, exactly. AJ, before we sort of do how we always close up and look at a man the match, was as difficult enough as it is, we got another tough game coming up next weekend. Against a team that have had a really good win this weekend. What do you think we're going to have to do during the week in terms of trying to turn it around and be prepared for the game next week? Because we don't know the extent of Anderson's injury, whether or not he's going to be okay to play next week. We don't know any of that just yet. But what do we do in terms of trying to make sure that we can go back into a game next week full of confidence and not to be completely blown apart and blown away because of the result yesterday, because it could very easily be very negative for the whole squad?
Ironically, the next fixture being what it is actually probably a silver lining for us. In most instances, I wouldn't want a strong game after a loss like that, but where that loss was somewhat of a freak result based on our recent form and the fact that the upcoming game is quite a big one, the players have a tendency to switch on their own for these big fixtures. We've got a little bit of a Robin Hood complex going on. Me and Drew mentioned it when we attended the Ipswich game together. We have a habit of giving teams beneath us maybe a little bit more credit. Not enough credit, and giving them points that they probably shouldn't be picking up. Not saying that Wolves shouldn't have picked up the points from us yesterday. Their performance deserved the points. It was more so that we didn't show up at all either, and we were very lackluster. So what do we need to do in preparation? Highlight key threats, because we didn't do that with Cunha. He seemed to have complete free reign, and no one was marking him when they should have been. And as a result, he absolutely bossed us, which isn't difficult for him considering he's statistically the best player in the league at the moment. And that was prior to playing us as well. What other than identifying key threats? Maybe we've got to switch up the team a little bit now. Maybe we need to stop with this 2 number 10s, Andreas and Andreas and ESR,
ESR.
and pick one of them, and then pick a midfielder to support either Lukic or Berge, or have Lukic and Berge together, and give them the opportunity when one is sat back, the other can push forward, because both of them have got very good offensive mindsets when they do get ahead of the play. It's an interesting one. I'd like to see a couple of changes. I'd actually like to see Adama getting back into the lineup. I think we've lost a lot of our initial threat, getting in behind early on from not starting him. Granted, he probably doesn't last 90 minutes in most cases, but I'd much rather be worried about that 2-0 up than worry about it in the 70th minute chasing a game, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, and I agree. Guys, this is going to be impossible to do as a task. You know, we do it every week where we like to give honourable mentions and a man of the match for the game yesterday. You know, I watched it, today, and there's not many things I'm impressed about in terms of a Fulham performance on the pitch yesterday. Drew, I'll come to you first, mate. Is there anyone you can give an honourable? Is there anyone you can give an honourable mention to? You know, who would be your man of the match if you're going to give one?
I suppose Iwobi because he scored, but probably the fans. Quite frankly, they were the best thing about the game. It's one of those. I mean, when you see Kenny Tete struggling, you basically, as a Fulham fan, if you see Tete struggling, you basically just want to phone it in because that's it. I mean, he got himself booked, and Silva shrewdly took him off and brought on Castagna because the way it was going, you could see he was just going to get a red card. So probably why, because he scored. Honourable mentions, the fans, because a lot of them stayed till the end, and quite frankly, they would have been. I mean, when the time went up for the extra time, the 7 minutes, if there hadn't been they staged a mass exodus there, and I wouldn't have blamed them. But it was just one of those games. And what worries me, and you've just covered it with AJ, what we need to do next week. I will say this, and I will go on record saying this: it doesn't matter what we do next week, because if our energy levels are at the same as they were against Wolves, we are going to get buried about 5-0. Simple as that. 100%. Simple as that. You forget about tactics, forget about the balance of the midfield, forget about isolating strikers and all that sort of stuff and tracking runners. Yeah. If we are not at it, if we do not match their energy, if we do not match their commitment, if we aren't physical at the point of attack, then we are going to get destroyed. Simple as that.
Okay. Well, we'll see how you feel when we record our match preview later on in the week. But I imagine we're all going to be quite negative going into that one, and I genuinely am scared for the game next Sunday as we currently sit here. And give me a couple of days, I might feel a bit more positive. Probably, but we'll go from there. AJ, what about you, mate? Is there any honourable mentions for you? Who would be your man of the match?
Honourable mentions. My honourable mention's probably going to be Iwobi for his goal. Honourable mention for Lukic for carrying an injury, maybe. Honourable mention for Leno for watching all of that unfold in front of him. Man of the match. 1 second. Let me see if anyone wants it. Hello? No, they don't want it. So I'm not giving one this week. Simple as that. The fans can have it. There you go. Congratulations, boys, for putting up with that crap.
Yeah, well, I watched it back today, and I messaged the group chat, and a couple of minutes after Wolves had made it 2-1, and I did congratulate Drew for staying for the 90 minutes because I almost walked out of my front room and out of my house. It was that bad what I was watching. Did
someone tie you to your chair or what?
No, I don't know why. I'm glutton for punishment. I did manage to watch the rest of the 90 minutes, and I was really, really not impressed. I don't have any honourable mentions. Nobody deserves it. There was no honour in that defeat yesterday. The kit man probably deserves it because the weather was shit, but they all looked pretty decent coming out on the pitch. But that's about it. Iwobi will probably get man of the match because he took his goal really well. But realistically, there wasn't much quality other than that, and I would happily not give it to anybody. So for me, I'm more than happy to give it to the fans who stayed for 90 minutes because I struggled to watch it for 90 minutes, and I was at home for a week rather than being at the ground. And if I was at the ground yesterday, I can imagine I would have heard the pub calling after about 70 minutes and would have been tempted. And I never leave early, and that's saying something. So we'll go with that. Other than that, guys, I want to say, firstly, thank you guys for joining me for this review. Not an easy one to do, we know, but we'll go into that. I want to congratulate the Fulham women's team who managed to get a really impressive FA Cup win today in second round, now through to the third round draw tomorrow. They were 3-1 down and they managed to put it around today. So well done to them to getting through, fully deserved. Also want to just say thank you to everyone who donated food and money to the food drive that they did on Saturday. I believe they received about 6 crates of food and about £200 in cash donations, which is fantastic stuff. And I know Sarah and the Lilies are really happy with that. So well done for everyone who gave towards that.
Talking of the Fulham Lilies, I think we should just
Yeah.
congratulate Laura Radford of the Lilies and John Curtin of welcoming the birth of their first child, Albie. So congratulations to Laura and John, and may the little babby be very happy and healthy as he grows up.
Yeah, and he's going to be punished by becoming a Fulham fan.
Well, he's got no option, bless him.
He's got no option.
Dad, his fate's sealed.
Poor child. Hey, that is what it is. It is. Yeah, congratulations,
Good luck, Laura and John.
Yeah.
Congratulations to the Lily. Congratulations to the Fulham ladies team, and maybe they can show up at Hotspur Park and teach the lads a thing or two, because it would have been lovely to see that sort of come back on Saturday.
Well, it would have been nice to see that sort of attacking play on Saturday, but other than that, thanks guys for joining me. We'll see you on Friday for the preview of Spurs. That's hopefully going to be positive. Have a good week. Try to anyway, and come on, you Whites.